Hello, hello. Welcome to the FanDuel Punch-Out. I am Big Italy 42. As you know, he is Josh Shepardson at BChad50 on Twitter. And we are here to bring you the best of the best baseball knowledge for tonight's slate on FanDuel. Starting at 7:05, there is some early action today, but you know, with the early time here in the East Coast, we decided to spend our extra time giving you just the best of the best for tonight. So, without further ado, Josh, you ready to get things going here?
You know what?
All right, we've got a ton of great pitching options, at least in my opinion, here for tonight. Your obvious top option, Felix Hernandez, monster favorite, minus 220, $11,400. Struggled a little bit in his last start, but still one of the best pitchers in the game. I have zero concerns about him tonight against this Texas lineup that doesn't hit righties. They don't really hit lefties. They don't really hit. I mean,
yeah,
he's in a great spot today. Seattle bats tend to hit better at home as well, so he's got to be your top option, right?
He is, and comparing him to yesterday's aces, he's priced a little bit cheaper than Kershaw, only $400 more than Scherzer. So I built a couple Scherzer rosters yesterday. I can tell you, you can build around an $11,400 pitcher on FanDuel. You can build around his price point on DraftKings as well. So I like Felix tonight. Definitely the top play for me in cash games. Going to get some shares of him on FanDuel in GPPs as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Extremely high upside with him. You got Zach Greinke, who is a solid favorite as well. Not a great matchup, I guess, against Colorado, but he's been pitching great so far this year, so he's in play. I'll list you a couple more guys for you here. You tell me your favorites, least favorites of it. Add some guys that you like also, all right?
Certainly.
Jacob deGrom, obviously big upside. That Miami lineup, solid at the top, not so great at the bottom. I think he's going to have a fine day. Tanaka's at a great price on FanDuel. If you're a believer there, $8,700. Tremendous discount to the competitor there at DraftKings. So I like him. Jake Odorizzi, maybe he has, maybe he hasn't solved his fly ball woes, but he's keeping the ball on the ground. He's striking out batters this year. Only 3 Ks last game, but 13 ground ball outs is what I'm looking for. Gotta love that. If I'm looking in tournaments, Dallas Keuchel keeps the ball on the ground. He's risky, but he keeps it on the ground. And outside of that, if you want to go cheap, one other guy I'll consider, Chris Heston. I mean, he's $5,000. He's pitching well. Arizona's a tough team, but that's a pitcher's park. So give me your guys you like there, guys you don't. Anybody else you want to add?
I'm going to echo your love for Jacob deGrom. Good matchup, really good pitcher. The ERA estimators like him as much as his ERA, so he can miss bats. He can keep the ball on the ground at a good rate. Doesn't face terribly scary offense. And Matt Latos has gotten pummeled in 2 starts. He's yet to pitch into the 5th inning. So I like the fact that he's opposing Latos. I think that deGrom picks up the W and gets you some strikeouts and basically does everything you look for from your pitcher on FanDuel. I mean, you need somebody that can score points across the board, and deGrom can do that. I'm fading Tanaka. I have some concerns about the elbow still. I wonder if it's really impacting his stuff. He just hasn't been the same guy this year. I love Jake Odorizzi, though. Pitching at Tropicana, his fly ball rate shouldn't pose any homer problems. The ballpark does a good job of suppressing them, so I really like Odorizzi a lot. Dallas Keuchel is a, as you said, good GPP play. That price point is really good. Keeps the ball on the ground at a higher rate than anyone in the big leagues last year. So
love it.
So I mean, the home run park factors at Minute Maid don't scare me. The only thing that does is Mike Trout, to be honest. I mean, Mike Trout scares everyone for good reason, but if you can navigate him, rest of the lineup doesn't scare me a great deal. I mean, Pujols does hit lefties better than righties, but this isn't peak years Albert Pujols anymore. Down order, you got a guy like Chris Iannetta who hits lefties, but I mean, these aren't the type of guys that you say, oh no, they hit lefties, better keep Keuchel off the hill. Like, you can track Keuchel out there. And as long as he can navigate the moon shots from Mike Trout, I think he's in store for at least a quality start. And opposing C.J. Wilson, a lefty who's going to have to face all those power-hitting right-handed batters, I expect him to get some run support tonight. I mean, you're looking at that Houston lineup, and it's righty after righty after righty. You've got Altuve who hammers lefties. You've got Springer. You've got Gaddis and Carter and switch hitter Jed Lowry. I mean, he should get some run support, and I do think he's going to get the W. So I do like Keuchel as a GPP. GPP play.
Yeah, and C.J. Wilson with huge splits against righties compared to lefties last year. It's WOBA 345 allowed to righties compared to 266 on lefties. So tough on lefties, but really giving up just a ton to righties. And I'm with you there. I think there's going to be some run support there. And that Dallas Keuchel number with the ground ball rate is 63.5%. I mean, every time I look that up, I know where it's going to be. I always write down these numbers so I have them in front of me. But you see that, and it doesn't look real. It looks like one of those video game numbers. And I know video games haven't yet incorporated ground ball rate. But my ideal video game will have ground ball rate and K rate and all of those things. And those are the type of numbers you expect from a Clayton Kershaw type guy. But,
yeah, I mean, it's an elite ground ball rate, and he's got to be, they say bowling ball sinker, like, as if it's hard to lift. Like, he must literally be throwing a bowling ball out there because no one is lifting the ball when Dallas Keuchel's throwing it.
Oh, yeah. He's got to have one hell of a bicep on that one arm. But without further ado, let's go ahead and move on here to catcher, where a guy who we're obviously not chasing the big game yesterday, but in a fine spot as well again today, Stephen Vogt. $2,900, obviously double dong last night. You're not expecting that. And Yordan Ventura actually pretty tough on lefties last year, 288 WOBA allowed. But I don't mind his spot tonight either because Ventura has been known to be wild at times. He was wild last year, walked almost 9% of batters. So I like that spot. Jonathan Lucroy in the matchup we thought we were getting yesterday at 3,500, also in play there. And a guy I was a little disappointed didn't get to play last night is Travis d'Arnaud at $3,100. So who else you got here?
Those are the main three. I will add Evan Gattis to the mix. $2,900, hit fifth last night for the Stros, so he's in that all important top 5 spots in the lineup. And he gets that platoon advantage over C.J. Wilson. Hits for power, hitting at home against Wilson. So I think there's some serious home run potential with Evan Gattis, but I'm not dipping too much lower than that. Probably Yasmani Grandal at $2,900, assuming he doesn't get the day off for A.J. Ellis, because he did catch Clayton Kershaw last night. Probably worth monitoring to make sure that he does start tonight. Might end up getting Ellis his start because it just... They definitely are mixing up their catchers a little bit, making sure that they get Grandal some rest and don't run him into the ground. But matchup with Jordan Lyles is pretty cushy if he gets it as a switch hitter. He's going to get to hit left-handed against Lyles, and Lyles is absolutely dreadful against lefties.
Yep, yes he is. 372 WOBA allowed last year. So I mean he makes Jeremy Guthrie look pretty good at those.
Yeah.
Points, so. All right, over here to first base, we should need to tell you Adrian Gonzalez is the hottest player on the planet, maybe in any sport. 22 for 40 so far this year, 8 doubles, 5 homers. I could go on and on. I guess I couldn't go on for that long. It's only been about 10 games. But either way, at $5,000 today, you already mentioned Jordan Lyles, pretty weak. Not so great against righties either. So Adrian Gonzalez at $5,000, got to be your top play at first base, right?
Yeah, I mean, the sweet swinging lefty first baseman has that Lyles platoon split is perfect, and he's raking. He's got a great lineup spot, and I think there's once again some Dodger stack potential when you look at that lineup. You're going to get switch hitting Jimmy Rollins at the top, probably going to get Carl Crawford hitting in the 2-hole again, assuming Puig's hammy's still bugging him. Then you've got Gonzalez. That's 3 lefties to lead things off. That's some hook them together. Enjoy the benefit of Adrian Gonzalez against Lyles. Looking a little below him, and by a little I mean directly below him, I like Lucas Duda at $700 cheaper. If you're not using Dallas Keuchel, Albert Pujols at $4,000 doesn't look like a bad price point. And then we get down to one of my favorite plays, and again, this isn't chasing last night's tater, $2,700 Ike Davis. Really is an above-average hitter against right-handed pitchers. You already cited that Ventura was pretty tough on lefties last year, but at $2,700, I mean, you're getting a lot of value from Davis. And if you're going to use Zach Greinke or King Felix tonight, you're going to have to get some of these sub-$3,000 guys in your lineup, and Ike Davis makes for a really good target.
Yeah, I'm with you there. One other guy I want to throw in the mix here, Kendrys Morales at $2,800. Off to a fine start this year. Jesse Hahn, not exactly intimidating. Not a guy you wouldn't necessarily want to pick on, but not a guy you're going out of your way to avoid either. So I don't mind him at $2,800.
I agree. And again, it comes down to that price point. You have to get some of these guys. If you want those safe cash game lineups with King Felix and Greinke, you can't just spend through the nose everywhere. And Morales, good lineup spot, going to get the platoon advantage as a switch hitter. So, yeah, he looks like a good target to me as well.
I like that. All right, moving on to second base. We don't need to tell you about how Jose Altuve against the lefty, but if we do need to tell you about Jose Altuve against the lefty, play him against the lefty. He's got a decent amount of power. He's got speed. He puts the ball in play. He's just an absolute monster against lefties, so no further analysis needed here. Get Jose Altuve if you can afford him. If not, you got Robbie Cano at home against a bad righty in Colby Lewis. He's expensive, but at $3,900, he's off to a bad start, but he's still Robbie Cano. Obviously not the power he had at Yankee Stadium, but you still like him in this spot. A few other guys you want to mention here. I'm a big fan of Joe Panic as a cash game play. He's really cheap. He's $2,500. You already mentioned having to get some cheap guys. Not much power there. Not a guy that you're going out of your way to target, but if you need a cheap guy for your cash games, I don't mind him at all.
I don't either. Good matchup with Ruby De La Rosa. De La Rosa struggled with left-handed batters last year. Good lineup slot, hit second, so you get those benefits at $2,500. But I have to be honest. I think it's tough to say, but I think my favorite play of the day is $3,900 Robinson Cano. Yep. Gets the platoon advantage against Colby Lewis, who is absolutely awful against left-handed batters. Cano is an absolute monster against right-handed pitching since 2012. I mean, when you have platoons like that collide, you have to take advantage of it, especially when that player comes in at under $4,000. So get him at a weak position at second base. I love Robinson Cano today.
Yeah, huge fan there. I mean, we're talking elite hitter against a pitcher who, if he wasn't in the Texas Rangers rotation, would probably have no business being in the big leagues.
Yep.
In my opinion. He's pretty bad. So, all right, moving over to third base where we've got some options here. And going back to what we were talking
Seager.
about. Yeah, Seager. I'm glad that you went there so I didn't have to be the one to do it right off the bat. But Seager at home against a righty, you're welcome. And I got an extra one for you here. Only $3,000 today. Aramis Ramirez against a lefty, $3,000. Go ahead and just slot him in if you can't afford some other guys. He's going to be one of the top plays. Lefty masher throughout his career last year. Doesn't matter that he's about 61 years old. I will be playing a ton of Aramis Ramirez tonight.
Yeah, he's basically the reason I hesitated to say that Cano was my favorite play of the night, because Aramis at $3,000 with the work that he does against lefties, good Lord. Yep. I mean, he is that perfect complement to getting your King Felix and your Greinke, because you're sacrificing nothing grabbing a hitter. You're getting a well above average hitter, and you're getting one for super cheap. Ramirez is going to be on so many of my rosters tonight. Love Seager, but at $500 less, it's probably going to be like a 75-25 split for Aramis for me, and Seager maybe on some of my DeGrom teams where I have a little bit of extra money. One other name I'll throw in there, and probably not as strong of a tournament play because people are going to be chasing his early season production, but $3,300 Alex Rodriguez facing a fly ball pitcher, and we're talking about a guy that is absolutely tearing the cover off of the ball. I had no idea what he'd do this year. Anybody that says that they knew what he'd do after the year suspension is full of it. He's hitting the ball a long way. I looked last night, and I haven't had a chance to check yet today, but Baseball Heat Maps had him ranked 29th in average home run and fly ball distance, and that was before his two-tater game last night. So he's hitting the ball a long way. The power's there. He's facing a fly ball pitcher. Going to probably be highly owned in GPPs because he is off to such a hot start, but does offer home run upside, I mean, with the best of them, basically.
Yeah, I'm with you there. That's a great call. And, yeah, I mean, he's hot right now, so you got to take advantage while you can. Next up, shortstop, where there's not a lot of guys I love. You already kind of touched on him a little bit. Jed Lowry, $3,400, the guy I'm a big fan of. Jimmy Rollins is going to come in against Jordan Lyles. He's a solid play there at $3,600. Outside of that, I will be completely honest with you, I do not like the cheap options tonight.
I got one, and it's become my default cheap guy, and that's $2,800 Asdrubal Cabrera. I don't believe in Masahiro Tanaka, so getting a switch hitter like Cabrera who hits third, basically to get a number 3 hitter for under $3,000 is a pretty nice luxury. So that's it. I mean, those are really the only 3 shortstops I see any point in rostering. I don't see any value in going down and punting anywhere. the top options just aren't expensive enough to deter me from using them. You're not getting a good enough savings for what you're going to have to sacrifice in lineup spot or hitting skills to dip into the bargain bin. Basically, if I'm saving money, if I'm having trouble fitting Lowry or Rollins on my roster, a leadoff hitter or a 3-hitter in a favorable matchup, then I'm going down to Cabrera at 2,800, but I'm not going any lower.
Yeah, I'm with you there, 100%. Moving on to the outfield here, Mike Trout. He had 2 home runs last night. He's the best hitter on the planet. I don't know if you knew that. So if you want to get yourself some Mike Trout, go ahead. But just know your mom, your sister, your next-door neighbor, the guy driving, delivering pizzas down the street, everyone will have Mike Trout tonight. So we said it on the DraftKings pod with Christopher Ruckus. I'm not saying to fade Mike Trout, but I'm saying he is going to be very heavily owned. So if there's ever a fade, I don't think that this is a bad spot to fade Mike Trout because he will be so highly owned tonight.
He will be highly owned, and he's facing that ground ball rate of Keuchel. I mean, that's not to say that he's not going to hit a scalding hot, single through the left side or the right side, but it's going to be much more difficult for him to lift the ball and put it in the seats. And if you're paying the price that you have to pay to own Trout tonight, you're going to need more than a couple singles and getting stranded on base to really justify that salary, I think.
True. And let's talk about Nelson Cruz here. I mean, what the hell's up with this guy? No home run last night. I mean, the guy's just a huge bust now, right?
Obviously. I mean, I thought he was going to hit one every game this year, but my goodness, he's sandwiched between our boys Robinson Cano and Kyle Seager. Really good lineup spot if the M's are going to get to Colby Lewis like I fully expect them to. So Cruz getting a righty, but Colby Lewis isn't exactly good against right-handed batters over the last few seasons either. So Nelson Cruz looks pretty good to me. I'm looking a little bit lower at some of my top plays. How about a $3,700 Ryan Braun against a lefty, Jeff Locke? Really like that price point. Love the lineup spot and love what Braun does against lefties. Curtis Granderson looks pretty good to me tonight against Matt Latos, who has struggled mightily this season. $3,000 for Granderson, so good price point on him. Chris Carter is, let's pull up that price point. He's a guy that I like in tournaments, $2,600 at home, big power, great ballpark for hitting for power, and facing C.J. Wilson's awful platoon split. And those are the bulk of the names that I'm looking at in the outfield. Who else do you got to add to the mix?
I can't have the show without mentioning Lorenzo Cain, who you thought I was going to say Kevin Kiermaier, who I am going to say Kevin Kiermaier. But first I'm going to say Lorenzo Cain. In case you're wondering how good Mike Trout is, which he's been very good, Lorenzo Cain actually averaging almost a point more per game than Mike Trout so far this year. 6.3 fantasy points per game. The guy is absolutely on fire. $4,100. Already mentioned, I'm not going out of my way to pick on Jesse Hahn, but Lorenzo Cain is just tearing the cover off the ball. So I want some exposure to him at $4,100. And then, of course, my man crush, Kevin Kiermaier, if he's back at the #1 spot where he belongs, Tampa Bay. $3,000 for Kevin Kiermaier. I forgive him for the 0 for 4 last night in the Fantasy Pros competition. That wasn't the reason I sunk, but he didn't help me last night.
Yeah, I like the Kiermaier pick. $3,000 should hit leadoff, and as I said, I don't trust Tanaka at this point. So if the Rays are going to jump on top of him, grabbing that leadoff hitter is a good starting point.
Yeah, absolutely like that. And with that, that's going to wrap things up here for us on the FanDuel Punch-Out. We will see you guys again next time. Check out all of our great content at dailyfantasycafe.com.